Today, we're going to talk about something that I see all the time, especially from women in their 40s and 50s who are feeling totally stuck with their weight, energy, or mood. And that's the idea that their hormones are the problem and hormone testing is the solution. You've probably heard it before, maybe even from a well-meaning practitioner. It's your hormones. You need to test your hormones. And that can sound logical, right? Like, if I just knew what my hormone levels were, I'd finally understand why I feel so off and I'd know exactly what to do to fix it. But the truth is, it's rarely that simple. In fact, for many women, focusing just on hormone levels and chasing perfect test results, it can be misleading and even a bit of a wild goose chase. You can spend hundreds on hormone tests and get the results back and still have no idea what to actually do. Or worse, you're told that everything's normal and you're just back to square one. Still bloated and tired and gaining weight despite eating well and trying to do all the right things. So in this episode, I want to pull back the curtain a bit and explain why hormones absolutely matter, but also why they're more of a symptom than a starting point. I'm going to walk you through what we actually look at with our clients when hormones are out of whack and why things like gut health, inflammation, nutrient levels, sleep, and toxic load have way more impact than you might think. And of course, I'll share when advanced hormone testing does make sense and how to approach it in a way that's actually useful, not overwhelming. If you've ever felt dismissed by test results or confused by conflicting hormone advice, or just sick of not getting real answers, then this one is for you. So let's dive in. All right, so let's talk about hormone testing. Starting with the stuff that's usually done through your GP or with one of those online kits that you buy from places like ManyChecks or Thriva. Now, I want to be really clear, I'm not anti-testing at all. Testing has a time and a place, but most of the hormone panels people are doing, whether it's through their doctor or through these direct-to-consumer kits, they're really just scratching the surface. What are they actually telling you? Well, most of the time, they're looking at whether you're ovulating or not. Maybe you just get a snapshot of estrogen, progesterone, FSH, and LH. And based on that, the conclusion is either your hormones are fine or you're perimenopausal, menopausal, or postmenopausal. And if you've ever had one of those conversations with your doctor, you'll know what comes next. It's either, well, this is just part of getting older and you're going to have to live with it. Or you could try taking HRT. And look, there's nothing wrong with HRT. For some women, it can be hugely helpful for managing symptoms and improving their quality of life. But it's not a magic bullet. It doesn't fix the root cause of why your body is struggling in the first place. Because here's what's often missing from that conversation. Menopause is a natural transition. The chaos that many women feel around that transition, the brain fog, the stubborn weight, the fatigue, the rage, the anxiety, the night sweats, that stuff isn't just a normal part of being a woman. It's a sign that the body's systems, digestion, detoxification, nervous system, nutrient status, it's a sign that they're not coping well with the hormonal shifts. And that's actually good news because it means that there's something that we can do about it. In many cultures, women don't even have a word for menopausal symptoms because they don't experience them in the same way, because their foundational health, things like their blood sugar balance, stress management, nutrient density, and gut health, it's in a much better place. Their bodies are more resilient, so the drop in hormones doesn't send them into survival mode. So when someone says just test your hormones or just start HRT, they're often skipping over the real opportunity to actually support your body to function better, so that when you do test, or if you do choose HRT, it's in the right context and part of a proper strategy. Because here's the thing, you could have perfectly normal hormone levels on a blood test and still feel like you're dragging yourself through the day. And you could be taking HRT and still not feel like yourself. So if hormones aren't the root cause, what is? Well, this is where things get interesting and where we start to see the real transformation in the women that we work with. Hormones don't just go haywire out of nowhere. They're messengers. They respond to what's happening in your body, which means if your body is inflamed, if it's undernourished, overstressed, or overloaded, your hormones are going to reflect that. So rather than going straight for the hormone test and hoping it gives you the golden answer, what we do first is assess the foundations that actually impact hormone balance and clearance. Let me walk you through the 7 key areas we look at when someone comes to us struggling with symptoms like stubborn weight, fatigue, mood swings, or cycle chaos. Firstly, gut health. Your gut isn't just about digestion. It plays a massive role in detoxing hormones, especially estrogen. If your gut's sluggish or inflamed, hormones can get reabsorbed rather than eliminated, leading to imbalances like estrogen dominance. Next, we've got inflammation. Chronic low-grade inflammation, often driven by stress, poor diet, food sensitivities, or even hidden infections, it throws off hormone signaling and it tells your body that you're under threat, which can suppress ovulation and tank your energy. Thirdly, nutrient status. Hormone production relies on specific nutrients like magnesium, zinc, B vitamins, and essential fatty acids. If you're depleted, and so many women are, your body simply can't make hormones effectively. And that brings us back to the gut again, because not only do we need to be getting enough of these nutrients in our diet, but we also need to be able to absorb the nutrients. And I want to also add here that what getting enough nutrients in the diet looks like is different for each woman, because your need for certain nutrients is going to be different than someone else's, and that's going to be based on lots of things like your genetics, what imbalances you have, how active you are, how stressed you are, how well you're sleeping. The demand that your body has for various nutrients is changeable and impacted by what's going on in your life, as well as your genetics and also your medical and diet history, if you're on medications, and all sorts of things. So it's not just about eating a balanced and diverse diet. That is key and it absolutely makes a difference. But often it's about the finer tuning and making sure that we're prioritizing the areas that are actually relevant to you. The fourth area is mitochondrial health. Now, this is one that's often overlooked, but your mitochondria are the little energy factories in your cells, and they are critical for hormone production and cellular resilience. When they're under functioning, you'll feel it as fatigue, brain fog, and sluggish metabolism. We often run tests on our clients that assess mitochondrial health, and so often the mitochondrial health is suboptimal, and key parts of the energy production process and the fat burning process are not functioning optimally. And this is something that never gets looked at or even mentioned when you go to your doctor and you're having that conversation about, how you're feeling off, how you feel like your health is going downhill or you're struggling to lose weight. The fifth area that we always assess is toxic load. From plastics and pesticides to cosmetics and cleaning products, we're exposed to hormone disrupting chemicals every day. If your liver and detox pathways aren't coping, these toxins build up and that impacts your hormones in a big way. Many of these toxins are known as xenoestrogens, and that means that they're very similar in their chemical structure to our own estrogens. And in that way, they can be disruptive. They can either have an estrogenic effect, which makes us go estrogen dominant, or they can actually block our own estrogens from doing their job. The sixth area is stress and the HPA axis. Your stress response system has a huge influence on your hormone balance. If your cortisol is constantly elevated or totally burnt out, it affects everything from progesterone to thyroid function, and often it's emotional and mental stress plus physical stress that creates the tipping point. The seventh area is sleep and your circadian rhythm. Your hormones work on a rhythm. If you're not sleeping well or consistently, that rhythm gets disrupted. And if your body isn't getting restorative rest, you won't make enough melatonin, cortisol, or sex hormones at the right times. So when we start supporting these areas before you do any fancy hormone testing, we often see hormones naturally rebalance. Periods regulate, energy returns, weight starts to shift, and women feel more like themselves again. And this is so key. You don't need to test your hormones to start fixing your hormones. You need to fix the terrain that your hormones are operating in. And that is what makes the biggest difference. Sometimes that might be achieved with simple tweaks and changes, and often testing those areas, those 7 core areas that I've mentioned, can be a game changer, which is why we do typically run tests on our clients to assess those 7 core areas in the Nourish method. That helps us to take out the guesswork and get super targeted so that we can get that person to where they want to be as quick as possible. Now, of course, there are times when advanced hormone testing can be helpful, and that's what I want to talk about next. So if you're sitting there thinking, this all makes sense, but I'm still struggling, should I invest in a proper hormone test? Here is how I'd help you think it through. Hormone testing can absolutely be worth it, but only when it's done at the right time for the right reasons and interpreted in the right context. There are a few situations where it becomes a really smart and valuable next step. Firstly, when symptoms are persistent despite doing that foundational work. If you've worked properly on your gut health, you've improved your sleep, you've supported your stress response, you've cleaned up your environment, and you're still feeling foggy, bloated, or stuck with weight loss, then that's when we might say, okay, let's dig deeper and look at the actual hormone pathways. This is sometimes what happens with our clients in the Nourish method. 9 times out of 10, if not more, we manage to get our clients to where they want to be without ever doing a hormone test, and by focusing on those 7 core foundational areas. Occasionally, we have someone that isn't seeing the progress they might expect, or their hormone symptoms just aren't shifting. That is when we might do a more advanced hormone test. Secondly, if your symptoms are more complex or severe, things like debilitating PMS or PMDD, irregular or missing periods, feeling like you're constantly on edge, severe perimenopausal chaos, fertility struggles, those often suggest a hormone picture that is more nuanced. I'd still recommend doing that foundational work first because those are all going to have an impact, but it would most likely be beneficial to get a complete hormone picture in that sort of case. The third time we might consider it, and this really goes back to the first point that I made, which is, it's really when you're ready to personalize things more deeply. It's especially relevant for women who have already started making changes and want to understand their body at the next level. And a Dutch test or a functional hormone panel will give you insights into how your body is producing your hormones, but also how your body is metabolizing and clearing hormones, which is just as important as how your body is making hormones and their current levels. And it's also important to look at your cortisol rhythm alongside this, because that has such a massive impact on your sex hormones and also whether your detox pathways are doing their job. In my program, we don't just jump straight into hormone testing. We start with the 7 core areas that I mentioned earlier: gut health, inflammation, nutrient levels, mitochondrial health, toxic load, stress, and sleep, because those are the foundation. If we test hormones before addressing those, the results are often a reflection of dysfunction that we already knew was there. But when you do the groundwork first, that's when hormone testing becomes so much more useful. It helps us to fine tune. It helps us to tailor protocols in a really personalized and evidence-based way. So if you've been stuck in trial and error mode, or if you're tired of surface level advice and you just want someone to help you to figure out what's really going on, this is where we start. In our 1-to-1 program, we help women uncover the real reasons behind stubborn weight, fatigue, mood swings, hormone chaos, and really any other symptoms they might be struggling with. We assess the systems that impact hormones first, and then, if needed, we layer in advanced hormone testing. If getting a highly targeted approach without the guesswork sounds great to you, then schedule a free discovery call now. Use the link in the show notes or the description. Or if you're curious about whether this kind of support is right for you and you're not quite ready to talk to me, then I'd recommend starting with my free hormone quiz or jumping into my 5-day metabolism reset challenge. It will help you start connecting the dots between your symptoms and the systems that may be out of balance. And it's the first step in moving from confusion to clarity. I'm going to link everything for you in the show notes. And I want you to remember, your hormones aren't broken. You are not destined to feel this way forever. This is not just a part of getting older, and you have the power and you have the ability and the control to be able to reestablish balance and really live your best life and feel incredible. Time after time, my clients finish the Nourish method and they tell me, Louise, you have given me my life back. I am not just struggling through the day and looking forward to the evenings, to the weekend. I am feeling good all day, every day, and not only am I feeling good, but I'm feeling confident because I am liking what I see when I look in the mirror. If that is what you are working towards, if that is where you want to be, that is absolutely possible for you. You just need the right support. You just need all of that noise, all of the confusion and the conflicting information taken away. And one of the best ways to achieve that is to have the right support, the professional expert consultancy, and if appropriate, the testing that is going to cut out all of that guesswork and confusion and help you to understand exactly what you need to focus on. So make sure you schedule your discovery call if that sounds good to you. Thank you so much for joining me today. I really hope that you've enjoyed this episode. If you have, make sure you hit subscribe, and I'll hope to see you in the next one.